All right, we're going to talk about the writing conference. And for me, this is the most challenging part. During the first 20 days of school, you're not going to really sit down and do formal conferences because your job during that time is just kind of roam the room and make sure that everybody is kind of working and feeling supported. But to be able to pull yourself away from that room support is going to be challenging for the first 20 days of school. So don't feel pressure to start conferring right away. I began conferring my formal writing conferences during that second unit of study. So day 21 of Writer's Workshop is when I start that. We're going to start with a couple of tools that you have. They're in something that you're going to want to make ahead of time is your Conferring Notebook. So this is essentially a very simple composition notebook with 3M tabs on there. And then once I have my official class list, then I would write the student's name across the top with a Sharpie, and then I'm good to go. Each student had 3 to 4 pages. Good to go. This particular, I don't know how many pages are in this book, but you can do the math, figure out how many you need, and then separate those. What I wrote in that book was I wrote the date on there. I wrote what that piece was about. So if it was about, the time they went to the beach or something, I would write beach. And then I would write things that I'm noticing that they're doing well and what my teaching point might be. And then the next time I sat down with them, I could look and remind myself what we worked on. If you think you'll remember, you will not. You will not. It's awful. I never would remember. Another thing that you can do is use, if you have a device that you're using in your classroom, maybe you have GoodNotes or maybe you have OneNote, something along those lines, take a picture. If you have Seesaw, that's fabulous because you can videotape your conference and save that. But if not, notebook works just fine. The other thing that you have is your conference kind of quick reference. And it just reminds us that when, first thing we want to make sure is that we're investigating, not interrogating. So when we sit down with students, we're going to ask them, what is it that you're working on? You're going to notice a name. I'm noticing you're doing this as a writer, and that's great because that's something that writers do. And I love that you're doing that. Make sure you keep doing that. And then you will ask them let me just ask you, let me tell you something else that writers do. Can I show you something else that writers do? They always say yes. And then you teach them something else. Now, it may be something that you've already visited in a mini lesson, or it may be something that the student might be really advanced and maybe they are ready for something that you haven't taught as a whole group yet. So you're going to teach them something else, and then you're going to ask them, now how's that going to look in your writing? So you're going to go ahead and have them look through their writing and show you going forward what that's going to look like. Maybe they're not having spaces between their words. So you're going to have them show you how to add spaces going forward. When we sit with a writing conference, it's not about correcting what's already happened. It's about giving them a tip to move them forward. So this isn't the time, like I'm still scarred by my second grade teacher with a red pen going through and circling everything and having me erase and change everything. No, that's not what that's for. This is for teaching you something today so that you're a better writer going forward. You may have them look back in their piece and say, you know what I'm noticing? I'm noticing in this particular, section, there's a spot here where I feel like there's a period needs to go, or there's a blah, 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 or a capital letter. Have them fix it once and then show them how to do it going forward. Okay, does that make sense? We want to change it's about changing the writer, not the writing. So it's not about correcting their writing. Okay. I got really overwhelmed when I would sit down with the student. I would look at their writing. I would be like completely overwhelmed by everything. I'd be thinking about all the different things that they could do. And then I would just say, okay, keep working. And then I would walk away. And meanwhile, the student didn't learn anything new. And I was like, what's the point? And it was just painful and nobody was moving forward. So I realized I needed more time with the student to know what I was going to talk to them. So this is what I came up with. I haven't seen anybody else, so I think it's my invention, but walk with me. Okay. So I want to make this kind of come up close so that you can see it. But it's also in your download. So everything is there. So we're going to look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This is just an example of it in action. So there's a piece of paper that it's blue, right? And that's kind of the work mat. And then there's the yellow cards that are movable. I put them on with Velcro so that they can move from day to day. Okay. So let's take a look at where the arrow is pointing for Monday. We have Matt, Caleb, Susie and Lydia, I think is the name on there. I can't read my own writing. That's really sad. Okay, so those are the people on Monday. Now on Monday, when we're finished with Writer's Workshop or writing time, those 4 students are going to hand in their writing folder to me on the desk. They're not going to put it into, I had a bin where I had everybody else put their writing when they were done, but those 4 students are going to hand their folder to me. Okay. And then during my prep time, which was usually after school, but during prep time, I would look through their writing folder and I would start to get an idea of what they were doing as a writer, right? So I'd start to look through there and I would be noticing, you know what, Matt is doing a great job of showing lots of detail, but I feel like he could write more on the page, right? Or maybe Caleb doesn't have spaces between his words, or somebody's handwriting is so messy, I can't read it. So maybe I would be talking to them about that. So I'm getting some ideas of things that I need to teach them for writing during our conference time, okay? Looking at their folder. Now it's Tuesday. I take that card and I move it to the center one. You see where Tuesday is, and that's where I do goal setting, okay? So now it's Tuesday. I have handed out everybody else's folder. They're off writing, and I still have those 4 students. I have their folder in my hand. They're still at the carpet. And at that time, I sit with them, and I'm saying, I'm going to give them a real quick goal. So I might say to Matt, you know what? You are showing a great, yada, 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 but I feel like you can tell more on a page. So I'd like to see if each page you could have 3 or 4 sentences. Can you work on that? And Matt says, yes. And then so off he goes, okay? And then Caleb, I'm noticing that you need to blah, 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 blah. Is that something that you can work on? Yes, off he goes. So those 4 students now are off working. And then I go over and I work with the students that are on my conferring schedule. So on this example, can't read it, but it looks like Mary's name is on there. You can see it. Let me bring it in close. So John, Mary, and Katie, those students are on there. So I'm going to go off. I'm going to do the writing. I have my writing folder, right? I got my writing conference. I'm ready to go and do some conferring. Okay. Now it's Wednesday. On Wednesday, you can see how Matt and Caleb and Susie and Lydia's name have moved over. I'm going to go and check and see, did Matt write more than 1 sentence or 3 sentences or whatever my goal was for him? Did Caleb add spaces? Did Susie make it more legible, right? I'm going to go and check and see. I gave them this goal yesterday. It gave them all day yesterday during writing time to work on it. I'm going to look for evidence that they have internalized that or at least worked on that. And then it tells me what I need to do next. So if I'm noticing that, Matt didn't write more, right? Didn't add more to his, then that's what my writing conference is going to be about. I'm going to be saying, okay, remember yesterday we talked about this. Let's work on this. Show me what that might look like, or let's talk about what that might look like. And then I'm going to have him try it out. Same thing with Caleb. No spaces. Guess what? That's what we're going to be working on. Now, if I notice that Matt and Caleb and all those students are doing the things that I gave them as a goal, I'm going to say, I love that yesterday we talked about that, and today I'm noticing it. Can we talk about something else I can show you that writers do, right? Because I've had a chance to spend some time with their writing versus on the fly, right? We're always rushed for time. This gives me a chance to kind of look ahead. Once you start this, it's going to make it much easier because you can go look back on things that you've worked on, right? And go back and forth. So that's how I handled the writing, the time to make it the most valuable for me and for the students. The other thing I wanted to say is that whoever I sat down with and wrote and worked on a writing conference, for example, on Wednesday, Matt, Caleb, Susie, and Lydia. I don't think it says Lydia. I think it says something else. Anyhow, if those 4 students, I conferred with them. They're also going to be the people who share in front of the whole classroom. So just 4 students share in front of the whole classroom. So Matt's going to share his piece. And when he comes up there to share, I had him put it under document camera. You may have another system for that. But when he goes up to share, I'm going to say, you know what Matt and I worked on today? We worked on yada, yada, yada. Matt, can you show everybody where you did that today? And then Matt will show it. And then I'll say, you know what I love, Matt, is that now I really understood what it was that you were writing about because you added this or you added spaces or blah, blah, whatever it is that I did, I'm going to tie it back into what good writers do. And it's like another mini lesson for the whole class, right? Before I did that, I I would have students, first of all, hounding me. Can I share today? Can I share today? Drove me nuts. No, no, I want to have everything set on a schedule so that they know when their share day is, what they're going to be sharing, right? So before I did that, that was one thing that would just drive me crazy. Can I share? Can I share? The other thing is a student would come up and start to read their story, especially when I was in first and second grade. The stories become very long and you're sitting there and you're like in a coma because it just goes on forever. And sometimes they're unfocused and sometimes they're hard to write. This way you're able to really focus in, you can get in and get out, okay? Once those 4 students have shared, the people who I conferred with, those 4 students have shared, now everybody shares with their partner. So people share every day, they share with each other, but only some students share in front of the whole class. Let's take a look up at Monday again. You can see there are some cards there that are on a clip. That means they're not in the rotation yet, right? So those are some students. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if you only had 12 students, but never happens. So there's 2 or 3 extra cards over there. They're just waiting to rotate through, okay? So they're numbered, let's see. This will explain what each of those are. So go ahead and look at that. This is how to write that. If you want to have students who do extra sharing, maybe you have somebody who did something excellent. Keep those in your folder, yank them out, hand them off. Students can go ahead and share. This is the page you're going to print. That's going to be the backdrop. These are the cards. I just would write on them, but if you want to type on them, you can. Velcro, Post-its work as well. This is a cover for your writing conference. Color, because we all love color. This is the little cheat sheet. And I don't remember where I was going with this. I guess that was probably it. I just wanted to share where everything was. But you can see I have these in group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so I can keep track. I don't want to keep missing a group. If a student's not there and it's their share day, that's okay. We'll do it later. If it's a student that I'm concerned about, then I want to make sure that I get with them more frequently. Teachers would often ask me, how do you have these students grouped? Are they grouped by ability? Kind of. I had them grouped by lots of abilities. And so I would have the student that almost could learn in spite of you, those students who don't need a lot of instruction. I would have them, 1 per card so that I didn't have to spend a whole lot of time with them. I could get in and get out. Those students who needed me more got a little bit more time. So I want to make sure I spread them out. And then you may have a student who needs to meet with you on double time. They might need to meet with you twice during that rotation. So maybe you have them in group 1 and in group 4, or maybe you have them in group 1, 3, and 5, right? Because you want to make sure that those students who need a lot of support are getting it. So this is a great way to do it. And I think that concludes the conferring section. Just make sure that you're getting to your students on a frequent basis. Don't worry about what you're writing down in your book. These notes are for you, whatever makes sense. But I liked to have the name of what they were writing on the date. I would put a G for the goals that I possibly would give them, and then the T for what I taught them. Okay, so that's kind of how I had it coded, a G for goals, T for taught, but do something that makes sense for you. Also during this time, we have that big goal setting chart. If a student wants to move their goal around, they can do that at any time. That's like a bonus. So let them move that around as well. If they've been working on writing letters that are really neat, maybe they want to have another select a student-led goal, then you can have them move that around as well. Okay, that's it. I've been talking for a long time. That's conferring.